Hello everyone. In this video for Solon Honors Chemistry, we're going to talk about the metric system a little bit. This is a little bit of a preview before we learn about the factor label method in the next couple of classes. I would encourage you to be on page 30, where it just says metric system units at the top. We'll be starting just kind of with some extra information, nothing that you need to worry about or write down. And then we will be learning those prefixes. We'll be learning kind of what's written at the top of that screen. So a little background. In chemistry and in pretty much every single science, we like to use our SI system of measurement. Now, some history behind this. It is kind of a system that's created by man, by scientists. It was officially adopted in 1960. And there are actually international standards kept in a vault in France. There's actually like little pieces of metal that are set as our 1 kilogram weight. Sorry, not weight, I should say mass. Or, you know, a length of metal that represents 1 meter. Widely used across the world. The US is one of the few countries that doesn't. I will say that the United Kingdom does like to use miles if they're talking driving distances or distances between cities, but for their other measurements, they do use metric. These are some common base units in SI. Don't need to memorize these, don't need to write these down. Again, you can just kind of see how we measure things. Something that's missing, probably should have liters, or I should say, if we want to measure volume, we use liters with a capital L. And kind of what we do in the metric system is we combine these base units with different prefixes to give us more descriptive units. And I would say, even before I get to those prefixes, these are the SI units that you should probably recognize. That if you see it written next to a measurement, and you should probably understand what quantity was being measured or being discussed. Again, don't need to write this down on anything quite yet, but again, something you should recognize. And as I kind of said, in the metric system, we use prefixes to adjust their scale. We can use prefixes to describe a rather large measurement and also a rather small measurement. Because, if we think about it, if we're talking distance, my cross-country runners in the house, your race is 5 kilometers. You probably wouldn't want to use milli or micro or nano to describe that distance of 5 kilometers. Or if anyone is a fan of actual FM radio, the different stations are set with different frequencies of those radio waves, and each station, like 99.1 or 90.3 or 91.1, that's describing their frequency in megahertz with that capital M. Again, we'd want to use that large prefix because it better fits what we're measuring. And what's kind of interesting about our metric system is that these are based on factors of 10. Each prefix represents a different 10 to a different power. Or I should say represents 10 raised to a different power. And what I would probably copy down now on page 30 is this chart right here. I would go from tera at the top down to pico. I would skip angstrom. So I'd skip petabyte. I don't know how to pronounce that. And I would skip angstrom. But I would go ahead and copy all of those down. So I might actually pause the video at this point, and I would copy down the name of the prefix, its symbol, and then that third column of 10 raised to that specific power. So for instance, I'd start with tera. And again, you can use this chart here on page 30 as which ones you should get. You can ignore angstrom. So I'd put tera, capital T, 10 to the 12th. And then I would do giga, capital G, 10 to the 9th. And then I would write down mega, capital M, 10 to the 6th. And then I'd write down kilo, lowercase k, 10 to the 3rd. And I would keep doing this. And I would also include the base unit, so you can kind of see what I've started to write on my paper there. That is what I'd put on your page 30, because you need to know these different prefixes and what power of 10 they represent. The one that I do want to point out is the base unit there. The base unit just stands for the unit by itself. So that would be liters, meters, grams, seconds. Again, the base unit is the unit without a prefix. And so again, what we can do by adding these prefixes, we can change kind of the size of that unit. We can adjust its scale. Like a millimeter is going to be 1,000th of that meter. A picometer, useful if we're talking like the size of an atom, would be 10 to the negative 12th, which is million, billion, trillion, 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So again, I would write these down on page 30. And just quickly to kind of review, and pause the video if you haven't, get those down like I started to get down on my page 30. And that's what I would write down, just like that right there. The name, the symbol, and the 10 raised to their specific power. And then what we have on page 30 is kind of what shows us that factor of 10. So like tera is 10 to the 12th. Giga is 10 to the 9th. Mega is 10 to the 6th. Kilo is 10 to the 3rd. And then what each of these spaces represents is that factor of 10. So again, if this is 12 here, 11, 10, oh, giga is 10 to the 9th. 8, 7, mega is 10 to the 6th. Then 5, 4, kilos 10 to the 3rd. Hecta is 10 to the 2nd. Deca is 10 to the 1st. Our base unit is 0. And then we get to the units smaller than our base unit. Deci, 10 to the negative 1st, 1/10 of something. Centi, 10 to the negative 2nd, 1/100th of something. Milli, 10 to the negative 3rd, 1/1,000,000th of something. And then 4, 5. Micro, 10 to the negative 6, that's the Greek letter mu. 7, 8, 9, nano is 10 to the negative 9th, 1/1000,000th of something. And then 10, 11, pico, 10 to the negative 12th, 1/1,000,000th of something. So again, what you have there at the top of page 30 is a little device to help us illustrate those different factors of 10. It can show us how many factors of 10 are between different prefixes. And a little mnemonic device for remembering those. You have it on the screen. I don't think I need to read it out to you. But again, that's just a way to remember those different prefixes. So again, hopefully you have that chart down. Kind of like what I was writing down on my paper. So again, here's kind of the first part of it. Have that for all of them. And I would work on learning these prefixes and their exponents. And we're going to see why it's important to us when we go to factor label next.